Dr. Rian Hale sat alone in the quiet research center. It was nearly midnight, and the building was colder than usual. Most of the workers had gone home hours ago, but Rian stayed behind. He always stayed behind. He liked to observe the apes when the world outside was silent. He believed that animals showed their true behavior only when humans were not watching. Tonight, however, something felt different. Something felt wrong. Rian unlocked his tablet and opened the live feeds from the ape enclosures. The screens flickered for a moment, then showed the large glass rooms where the apes slept. At least, they were supposed to be sleeping. One ape was still awake. It was ape number 19, a large male with dark eyes and unusual intelligence. Rian watched as the ape sat quietly in a corner, staring, not at the food tray or the sleeping apes, but directly at the camera. Directly at him. Rian leaned closer. "Why are you awake?" he whispered to himself. The ape blinked slowly. Once, twice, then raised one hand and tapped the glass wall. Top, top, top. The sound was soft, but in the empty nighttime lab, it felt loud and sharp. Rian frowned. That's not normal. He zoomed in on the camera, studying the ape's eyes. There was focus there, awareness, almost like the ape understood that someone was watching, almost like it wanted to send a message. Rian checked the other enclosures. A strange pattern appeared. Several apes were not sleeping. They were sitting very still, facing the same direction as ape 19, facing the cameras, facing him. He felt a chill run up his back. Rian stood and walked down the long hallway. The lights above him buzzed softly as he approached the main enclosure room. He swiped his ID card, and the doors slid open with a hiss. Inside, the air was warmer and smelled faintly of fruit and disinfectant. The apes sat behind thick glass walls, pretending to rest. Rian stepped closer. Ape 19 slowly turned its head to look at him. Its eyes followed him with a calm, controlled expression. Not confusion, not curiosity. Something else. Something deeper. "Okay," Rian said softly. "What is going on with you?" He noticed something near the floor. Scratches. Thin lines carved into the smooth metal surface. Rian crouched to inspect them. They were not random. They looked like shapes. Symbols. He touched the marks gently with one finger. "Is someone playing a joke?" he whispered. But he knew no one else worked this late. And no human would crawl inside an ape enclosure and risk being injured just to carve marks on the floor. He took a picture with his tablet. The symbols formed a repeated pattern, almost like a code. As he stood up, a sudden noise made him jump. A soft shuffle, a quiet breath, a movement in the dark corner of the room. Rian quickly turned. All the apes were suddenly awake now. Their eyes glowed faintly under the dim emergency lights. They were not making sounds. They were not moving wildly. They were simply watching him. Every single one of them. Rian stepped back. "This is not normal," he whispered again. He forced himself to breathe slowly. Maybe the lighting change disturbed them. Maybe they were hungry. Maybe this was all just stress and coincidence. He tried to calm himself, but his heartbeat was loud in his ears. He returned to the control room and checked the logs. Everything appeared normal. No errors. No alerts. But deep inside, he felt something was wrong. He kept watching the screens, zooming in on small details. A hand gesture here, a silent glance there. The apes seemed to communicate without sound, using only eye movement and tiny motions. Like a secret language. Rian rubbed his temples. "I need sleep," he said, but he didn't move. He kept watching. Hours passed. The building stayed dark and cold. The apes stayed awake, as if waiting for something. At 3:14 a.m., all the cameras flickered, then froze, then came back online. In that tiny moment of blackout, the apes had changed position. Completely. Perfectly. As a group. Now, they stood in a line, all facing the same direction. All facing Rian. His breath caught in his throat. "No." He leaned closer to the screens. Their eyes were wide open, glowing faintly in the low light. Their bodies were still. Too still. Rian suddenly felt he was being watched. Not by animals, but by something that understood him. Something that wanted him to see. Something that had a plan. He reached for his phone to call security. At that moment, the lights in the entire building flickered twice. Then turned off. Darkness swallowed the lab. Only the emergency red lights remained. And in that red glow, Rian saw silhouettes rising behind the glass walls. Tall, silent, dozens of apes standing up at the same time, their eyes reflecting the red light like burning coals. Rian's voice shook as he whispered into the darkness. This is not normal at all. And the apes watched him, unmoving, waiting, as if the night had finally begun. Doctor Rian did not go home after the terrifying night. He did not sleep. His mind replayed the images again and again, the apes standing in perfect silence, staring at him like a single mind inside many bodies. By morning, the research center looked normal again. Workers moved around, drinking coffee and laughing. The apes acted calm, quiet, and harmless, just like always. No one believed Rian when he tried to explain what he saw. "You are stressed," one scientist said. "You need a break," another added. A group of apes standing together is not a conspiracy, Rian. It's animal behavior. But Rian knew what he saw, and the apes knew he saw it too. He returned to the enclosure room and stood in front of Ape 19. The ape sat calmly on the floor, eating a piece of fruit. But its eyes were too focused, too aware. Rian looked closer and noticed a new scratch on the wall behind the ape. Another symbol, different from the ones he saw the night before. He whispered, "Who is making these?" As if responding, Ape 19 slowly raised its head and made a tiny hand motion. Just one small gesture, almost invisible, but Rian saw it. And then he noticed something else. The other apes copied the same tiny motion a few seconds later. Not random, not instinct. It was communication. Rian felt the cold fear return. He quickly went to the security room and checked the night camera logs. His hands shook as he rewound the recordings. At 3:14 a.m., the moment the lights flickered, there was a half-second jump in the footage. Half a second missing. What happened here? Rian asked the guard. The guard shrugged. Probably a system glitch. But Rian did not believe it. He watched the footage again and again. In that missing half-second, the apes had changed positions with unnatural precision. They moved faster than normal apes. Faster than humans. How? He paused the screen when Ape 19 looked directly at the camera. The ape's eyes were open wide, glowing faintly from the night lights. There was intelligence there. Purpose. Rian whispered, "You are hiding something. All of you." He decided to conduct a test. A simple test. He turned off the lights in the enclosure room for 10 seconds. Only 10. When the lights came back on, all the apes were facing him again. Every single one. Their eyes unblinking. Their bodies still. Only 10 seconds. That was all it took. Rian stumbled back. "No, this is impossible." He took his notes and went to the director's office, but the director did not take him seriously. "Rian, we have no evidence. You have theories, not facts. But the symbols, scratches on the floor. That's all." The meeting ended with the director saying, "Drop this, Rian. Focus on your real work." Rian left the office feeling frustrated and alone, but he refused to drop it. He walked outside to clear his mind. The wind was cold and the sky was cloudy. He stared at the tall research building and wondered how many secrets were hidden behind its walls. Suddenly, a soft beep came from his tablet. It was a motion alert from the ape enclosures. Rian rushed back inside and opened the camera feed. At first, everything looked normal. Then he saw it. A shape, a shadow, a figure moving behind the apes. But it wasn't a person. It was another ape. An ape not registered in their records. Not in their system. Unknown. Rian zoomed in. The mysterious ape had no collar, no ID tag, no file in the database. Its fur was darker than the others, and its movements were too smooth, too controlled. It walked to Ape 19 and touched its shoulder with a slow, meaningful motion. Ape 19 nodded. Rian's heart felt like it stopped. The apes were not acting alone. There was a leader, a hidden leader. Rian whispered, "What were you planning?" At that exact moment, the unknown ape turned its head and stared straight into the camera. Straight at Rian. Its eyes were not normal. They were sharp, cold, almost human. And then, for the first time, Rian saw it. The ape smiled. A slow, knowing smile. The room felt suddenly colder. Rian stepped back from the screen and whispered, "There's a conspiracy. I knew it. Something big is coming. And deep inside the research center, the apes continued their silent communication, waiting for the next move. Dr. Rian could not forget the smile of the unknown ape. It was not an animal smile. It was a warning, a message without words. The next morning, Rian arrived at the research center before sunrise. He wanted to investigate the new scratches and symbols before anyone else entered the building. The hallways were silent, the lights dim, and the air cold enough to make his skin prickle. Rian unlocked the main enclosure. The apes slept quietly, or pretended to. Their bodies looked relaxed, but he knew better. He walked to the back wall, where he had seen the new symbol. What he found shocked him. The single scratch from yesterday had now grown into a larger design. Dozens of lines, shapes, and curves formed a strange pattern, almost like a map or a coded message. Rian touched the symbols. This wasn't here yesterday. How did you make all of this in one night? He checked the cameras again. No alerts, no movement logs, no sign of the unknown ape. The security system had recorded nothing. Zero activity. But the symbols were real, right in front of him. Rian took pictures and uploaded them to his private device. Then he began comparing the patterns to the ones he had found earlier. After only a few minutes, he noticed something terrifying. The patterns were not random. The symbols formed numbers. A sequence. A countdown. Rian felt his heart thump hard in his chest. A countdown to what? He sat down at the desk and began analyzing the earliest symbols he had captured from weeks ago. Suddenly everything made sense. The symbols appeared every few days, and each new pattern reduced the previous one by one number. They were counting down for months. Slowly, secretly, and the next number was close to zero. Rian whispered, "No, no, this can't be real." Just then, the door behind him clicked. Rian jumped in fear, but it was only his assistant, Laura, entering the room. "You're here early," she said with a tired smile. Rian hesitated. Should he tell her? Would she believe him? Before he could speak, Laura stared at the symbols on the wall. "What is that?" she asked. Rian replied, "I think it's a message. A countdown." Laura looked confused. A countdown for what? Before Rian could answer, the apes suddenly moved. All of them, at the same time. Slowly, every ape lifted its head and turned toward Rian and Laura. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Their bodies stayed still, but their attention was sharp, dangerous. Laura stepped back. "Rian, this is creepy." The apes made tiny hand motions, small, quick signals. A silent language. A secret system. Just then, the unknown ape stepped forward from the shadows. The same one from the night before. Its dark fur looked smooth and clean. Its face calm, but full of intelligence. It walked to Ape 19 and placed a hand on its chest. Ape 19 responded with a gentle bow. A bow, like soldiers greeting a commander. Laura gasped. Did they just bow? Rian nodded slowly. The unknown ape, it's their leader. The leader ape slowly turned its head toward the glass window. Toward Rian. Toward Laura. Its eyes seemed to understand everything. Its posture was confident, almost superior. Then it raised one finger and tapped the glass 3 times. Top, top, top. The same pattern as before. The same signal. But this time something changed. The lights above flickered. A soft humming noise came from somewhere deep inside the building. The emergency system flashed for a second, then stabilized. Rian felt a sudden rush of fear. "It's starting," he whispered. "What is starting?" Laura asked. Rian showed her the decoded symbols on his tablet. "The countdown ends in 2 days." Laura stared at him, horror spreading across her face. 2 days for what, Rian? Rian looked at the apes again. Their leader stood perfectly still, watching him, waiting, as if daring him to discover the truth. "I don't know," Rian said. "But whatever it is, the apes are preparing for it." Laura swallowed hard. "We need to tell someone." Rian nodded. "Yes, but who is going to believe us?" At that moment, the leader ape pressed its hand against the glass, and the symbol carved into the wall behind it glowed faintly in the morning sunlight. A message, a warning, a promise. The countdown had begun, and humanity had very little time left. Dr. Rian and Laura left the enclosure room quickly. Their steps echoed through the empty hallway as they tried to understand what they had just seen. Ape intelligence was one thing. Silent communication was another. But a countdown? A leader ape that appeared from nowhere? This was something far bigger than evolution. They walked into the main security office. Rian opened the camera feeds again, but the unknown ape had disappeared from the enclosure. Where did it go? Laura whispered. Rian searched every corner on the screens. Nothing. It was as if the mysterious ape had vanished in a thin air. Before they could investigate more, the door suddenly opened. A tall man in a black uniform stepped in. His cold eyes scanned the room. "Dr. Rian Hale?" he asked. Rian nodded. "My name is Agent Corvin. I am from the National Research Authority." Rian frowned. "We didn't call for any government agents." Corvin stepped closer. "We received a report. Someone here believes the apes are showing unusual behavior." Rian glanced at Laura. She shook her head silently. She hadn't reported anything. Neither had he. So who called them? Rian wondered. Agent Corvin continued. "I need to speak with you privately, Dr. Rian." Rian followed him to a small meeting room. Corvin closed the door. His face looked serious, too serious. "What I tell you now stays between us," Corvin said. "You are not the first scientist to notice something strange about the apes." Rian felt a shock run through him. Not the first? So, this was already known? Corvin placed a small device on the table. It was black, thin, and shaped like a scanner. "This," Corvin said, "detects coded transmissions, signals that do not come from humans." Rian stared at him. "You think the apes are receiving signals?" Corvin nodded slowly. "We don't think it. We know it." Rian sat back. His breath caught. So, the government knew something was happening, and they hid it. Corvin continued. 3 years ago, after a strange meteor passed near Earth, ape behavior began to change worldwide. At first, it was small things, better tool use, faster learning. But then some began forming silent groups, following unknown patterns. Rian whispered, like they were being guided. "Exactly," Corvin said. "We believe an outside force may be influencing them." Aliens. Rian didn't say it, but the word screamed inside his mind. Corvin slid the scanner toward him. "Use this in the enclosure room. If there is any alien signal, this device will detect it." Rian felt a mix of fear and curiosity. "Why me? Why are you giving this to me?" Corvin replied, "Because you are already too deep into this, and we need someone inside who can observe without creating panic." Before Rian could ask more, the lights flickered again. A deep hum rolled through the building, shaking the table for a moment. Corvin looked up sharply. "That's the signal," he said. "It's getting stronger." Rian and Corvin rushed back to the enclosure. Laura was already there, standing pale and frightened. "The apes, they're doing something," she said quietly. Inside the enclosure, all the apes were seated in a perfect ring. Their hands moved slowly in synchronized patterns, like they were sending and receiving messages. Rian lifted the scanner Corvin gave him. The small screen lit up instantly. A red warning flashed. "Detected signal, non-human frequency." Rian's hand shook. "It's real. They're really receiving something." Agent Corvin whispered, "This is worse than we thought." Ape 19 lifted its head. The leader ape stepped forward from the shadows, back again, standing tall and silent. The leader placed one hand on the glass and stared at Rian. Not with anger, not with fear, but with knowing confidence, like it understood the device in his hand, like it knew Rian was discovering the truth. The scanner beeped louder, stronger, faster. Suddenly, all the apes turned their heads at the same time and stared at Rian and the agent. Then, the leader ape raised one finger and pointed directly at Rian. Agent Corvin whispered, "They know you're watching them. They know you understand." The lights flickered again. The hum grew louder. The countdown was moving toward its end. Humanity was running out of time. The warning signal on the scanner kept flashing red. Rian held it tightly, feeling the vibrations grow stronger with every second. The apes inside the enclosure were no longer behaving like simple animals. They were organizing. They were planning. And whatever the plan was, it was getting close. Agent Corvin spoke quietly. "The signal is getting more active. Something is coming soon." Laura whispered. Soon? Like today? Corvin did not answer. His silence was enough to scare both of them. Suddenly, the scanner made a sharp beep. Signal spike detected. The screen glowed so bright that Rian had to cover his eyes. What does that mean? Rian asked. Corvin replied. It means the apes are not just receiving signals. They're sending something back. Sending. Communicating. Responding. Rian felt the blood drain from his face. That means coordination, he said softly. Corvin nodded. Yes, coordination with something outside this building or outside this world. Before they could speak further, the building shook slightly. A low rumble passed through the walls, as if something large moved underground. Laura stepped back. What was that? Corvin checked his radio. Stay calm. I need to check the outer perimeter. He rushed out of the room. Rian followed close behind. Laura stayed near the doorway, too scared to move. They reached the main hallway and saw a group of scientists running toward the exit. What's happening? Rian asked one of them. The scientist replied, terrified, the apes in the outdoor units. They're gone. Gone? How? They broke the fences silently. No sounds, no alarms. They just disappeared. Rian felt cold fear spread through his body. They're moving in groups, he whispered, like a trained army. Agent Corvin spoke into his radio. Lock down the building. All doors sealed. No one enters or leaves. But the moment he said it, the lights flickered, then died. Total darkness. Emergency red lights blinked on. The hallway turned into a tunnel of blood-colored shadows. Rian could hear heavy footsteps moving in the distance. Not human footsteps. Soft. Fast. Many. Rian. Laura called from behind, her voice trembling. Come back, please. As they returned to the enclosure room, Rian noticed scratches on the floor near the exit door. New symbols. Fresh marks. Made only moments earlier. The countdown number had changed again. One less. Time running out. Inside the enclosure room, the apes were no longer inside the glass walls. The enclosure doors were open, unlocked. But no one had opened them. Not humans. Not security. Rian whispered. They opened the locks themselves. The leader ape stepped out from the corner. No fear. No panique. It walked like it owned the place. Laura gasped. How to get out? Corvin whispered. They bypassed security. They knew the system. The leader ape lifted its head. It looked at Rian with intelligent, cold eyes. Then it made a motion with its hand, slow, deliberate. In response, all the apes in the room moved at once. They formed a line behind the leader. Perfect formation. Perfect silence. Rian felt his knees go weak. This is not rebellion, he said. This is an operation. Suddenly, the scanner beeped louder. A massive signal spike. The device showed a map of the area. Dozens of dots, representing escaped apes, were moving toward one location. The old power station on the city's edge. Corvin looked at the map. That's their meeting point. Rian whispered, their first strike. The leader ape turned toward the exit and tapped the metal door twice. A signal. A command. Then the apes moved fast. Too fast. They slipped through the door and vanished into the darkness of the hallway. Laura whispered, we need to warn the city. We need help. Corvin said, we will. But first we need to know what they are building at that power station. Rian grabbed the scanner. He could feel the alien signal humming like a heartbeat. The countdown was almost over. He whispered, they're preparing for something big, and we're already too late. Agent Corvin drove fast through the deserted night roads, the scanner glowing in Rian's hands. The signal was growing stronger with every passing minute, like something was calling them, pulling them toward the outskirts of the city. Beside Rian, Laura's hand shook. What if we're too late? She whispered. Rian didn't answer. He stared out the window at the dark shapes moving along rooftops and trees. Apes. Dozens of them. All heading in the same direction. Corvin said, they're gathering. This is coordinated. Rian whispered, a military movement. They reached the abandoned power station minutes later. The building stood like a dying giant. Metal beams broken, windows shattered, wires hanging like vines. But inside something was alive. Lights flickered, shadows moved, and a deep humming noise vibrated through the ground. Corvin signaled them to stay quiet. The three slowly moved toward the main entrance. The scanner in Rian's hand buzzed violently. The signal was strongest here, almost overpowering. What are they building? Laura whispered. Rian didn't know, but he could feel it. A strange pressure, a nervous energy in the air. They slipped inside. At first, it was dark. Dust hung like fog in the cold air. Then they saw it. In a massive central hall, under the broken ceiling, stood a huge machine. A huge circular structure of metal parts, stolen wires, broken generators, and strange alien-looking components. It pulsed with blue light. It crackled with electricity. Rian stepped back in shock. No, this is not human technology. Laura whispered, how did they build this? Corvin answered grimly. They didn't build it alone. They had instructions. Around the machine stood nearly 100 apes. Silent, focused, working like trained engineers. The leader ape stood at the center, touching a control panel made of scrap metal and glowing energy. Each time its hand moved, the machine reacted, lights shifting, power rising. Rian whispered, it's a pulse generator, but not for electricity. Corvin nodded. It's a global shutdown device. It can disable human machines, weapons, everything. Laura gasped. They want to take control of the world's systems. Rian stared at the leader ape. No, not want. They are ready. Suddenly, the leader ape froze. Its head turned toward them. Slow, precise. Rian's heart stopped. It sees us. The ape lifted its hand. All the apes in the hall turned toward the humans. Their eyes glowed with cold intelligence. Corvin whispered, run, but it was too late. The apes charged. Silent. Fast. Dangerous. Corvin pulled out a shock baton. Get back. He struck one ape, sending it crashing into a pile of metal. Laura grabbed Rian and pulled him behind a broken generator. The apes surrounded them, moving like shadows. Rian looked at the machine again. A countdown timer blinked on its side. 010, 009, 008. It was about to activate. No, if that pulse goes off, everything will shut down. Rian cried. Corvin fought 3 apes at once. Then stop it. Do something. Rian sprinted toward the machine. The leader, ape, jumped down in front of him. Its massive body blocked the way. It let out a deep growl. Not animalistic, but controlled, almost intelligent. Rian shook, but did not step back. He stared directly into its eyes. You're being controlled, he said softly. I know you are. This isn't your plan. Someone is using you. For a moment, just a moment, the ape hesitated. Its eyes flickered. Confusion. Pain. Then the signal spike hit. The ape roared and attacked. Rian ducked and rolled under its swing. He reached the machine. His hands searched desperately for the core. There, a unit glowing with bright blue energy. The heart of the alien device. The timer blinked. 004. 003. Rian grabbed a heavy metal rod and smashed the energy core. A crack. A spark. A scream. The signal hit the apes like a shockwave. The machine exploded with a burst of white light. The apes collapsed. Silent. Unmoving. Rian fell to the ground, gasping. Corvin and Laura ran to him. Rian, are you okay? He coughed. I stopped it. But then, a faint humming sound filled the air again. Soft. Cold. Alive. Laura whispered, no, it can't still be active. Rian stared at the broken machine. The core was shattered. The power had died. But the alien signal, the true signal, was still coming. This was only the first wave. The real enemy was still out there. Watching. Smoke drifted through the ruined power station. The broken machine, sparks faded into silence. The apes lay unconscious across the floor, free from the alien control, for now. Rian sat on the ground, chest rising and falling quickly. His ears still rang from the explosion. Laura knelt beside him. Rian, we did it. We stopped the pulse. For a moment, he believed her. Then the scanner in his pocket vibrated weakly. A faint red light blinked. Not dead, not silent, still signaling. Rian's heart sank. The machine is gone, but the signal, the real signal, it's still active. Agent Corvin walked toward them, wiping blood from his forehead. We need to move, before these apes wake up again. But Rian didn't move. He stared at the scanner's map. The signal did not come from the power station. It didn't even come from the city. It came from the sky. Laura saw the fear in his face. What is it? Rian whispered. The signal is coming from orbit. Corvin froze. From space. Rian nodded. Yes. The apes were only receivers. The real controllers are out there. As if responding to his words, the scanner suddenly beeped louder. The signal strength doubled, then tripled. The ground trembled. The air grew colder. Outside, through the cracked walls of the power station, a bright light shone across the sky. A line of glowing symbols appeared on the clouds, just like the ones the apes carved on the walls. Laura gasped. They're sending a final command. Corvin lifted his weapon. To the apes. Rian shook his head slowly. No, to someone else. Someone coming. A deep rumble echoed from above. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered. Then silence. A heavy, unnatural silence. Rian stood up slowly. We have to get out. Now. They ran out of the power station. The night sky glowed with strange patterns, swirling like a storm made of pure light. In the distance, the unconscious apes began to move. Slowly, weakly, but their movements were natural again, not controlled. One of the apes crawled toward Rian, trembling. Its eyes looked confused, scared, lost. Rian knelt beside it. You're free now, aren't you? The ape didn't attack, didn't growl. It only blinked softly, as if asking for help. Laura whispered. They were victims, not enemies. Corvin looked at the sky. That means our real enemy is still out there. And it's coming. Suddenly, the swirling lights in the sky stopped. Everything froze. A single, massive symbol appeared in the clouds. One Rian recognized from the countdown. The final mark. The last number. 0. A cold wind swept across the city. Then a sound came. Not a scream. Not a roar. A message. A deep, alien tone echoed across the horizon, vibrating through buildings, shaking windows, rattling the earth. The apes all looked up, afraid, shaking, free but terrified. Rian whispered, they're calling their army, the real army. A bright tear opened in the sky, a rip in the darkness, a gateway. Inside it, shapes moved, tall, thin, shadow-like creatures filled with glowing blue energy. The alien controllers. Laura stepped back in horror. They're coming here. Corvin gripped his weapon tighter. This time it's not apes. It's them. Rian stood up, fear burning in his throat. But something else was inside him now. Courage. Responsibility. Humanity's fire. He said, they used the apes to test Earth. But now that we destroyed their machine, they know we're a threat. Laura whispered, what do we do? Corvin answered, what humans always do. We fight. Rian looked at the sky, at the alien shapes descending. He felt the scanner hum one last time, then die completely. He whispered, this was only the beginning. The ground lit up as the alien army approached. But Rian, Laura, and Corvin did not run. They stood together, ready to face the coming darkness. Because for the first time, the real battle for humanity had begun. And humanity was not going to fall without a fight.